Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the video. This is something that I am incredibly passionate about. If you've just been following along my journey for the past 6 months, you don't really know where I came from. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about 8 steps on how I saved $20,000 to buy my box truck for my box truck business. With my background, my passion is in finance and budgeting. So I took my personal passion and I found a job that fit my passion, and that's how I became a bookkeeper. That's how I became an accountant. That's why I opened my Harrisburg bookkeeping business. I basically do budgeting and finance and accounting for small business owners. So with that experience, I'm going to show you guys how I was able to save $20,000 to start my box truck business. And disclaimer, warning, it was not a fast process. So it's not complicated, but it's not fast. Here is the overview of the 8 steps. First, get a job. Second, have a budget. Third, be prepared to make sacrifices. 4, understand how to manage risk. 5, know the different ways that you can save your money. 6, work hard. 7, build your credit. And finally, step number 8, find a truck. Okay, step number 1. This might seem obvious, but it's the very first step into the process of saving money to start a business. And that is get a job. It doesn't matter what job you get. If you don't have a job now, you're not going to be able to save money until you get a job. So you can be making $10 an hour, $15 an hour, or you could be making $70,000 a year. If you make $15 an hour, it's just going to take you a little bit longer to save the amount of money that you need. If you make $70,000 a year, you'll be able to reach your goals a little bit faster. If you are an employee with a job, you're going to have to trade your time for money. So if you're not making a lot of money, you're going to have to trade more time. If you're making a lot of money, you'll trade a little bit less time. I know that's probably the most obvious step to this whole process, but I had to touch on it in the beginning just so we could establish a foundation, so we could lay a framework for the next 7 steps on how to save money. In the beginning of this video, I said this is not a complicated process, but it's also not a fast process. So it's relatively simple, but it takes a long time. So for me personally, I was an Army officer for 4 years, and then I was a warehouse manager for 2 years. So I worked for 6 years after I graduated college before I saved up enough money to start my own business. So if you are hoping to get started in the next month, if you're fresh out of high school, fresh out of college, if you're hoping to get started right away, just keep in mind that this process takes time. It's better to take your time now and make sure you have everything in place before you quit your job, before you buy a truck, before you start your business, because things get complicated very quickly whenever you are no longer an employee, but now you're running your own business. All right, hear me out. Step number 2 is by far the most boring step to this entire 8-step process, but it's the most important step. I promise you, if you get this right, everything else falls in line. You need to make a budget. You need to know exactly how much money you're bringing in. You need to know how much money you can afford to spend. And the bottom line is you need to make more money than you spend. So back in 2017, whenever I was fresh out of basic training and officer candidate school, and my wife moved down to Georgia with me, we had a very strict budget. We were spending $1,500 a month after we paid for fixed expenses like our rent, car insurance, and our phone bill, but we had $1,500 a month to spend on groceries, diapers, gas, movie theaters, restaurants, everything. And if you haven't done your budget yet, you might be thinking, oh, $1,500, that's a lot of money. It's not. I guarantee you, you are probably spending close to, if not more than $1,500 already, and you don't even know it. So $1,500 goes in the blink of an eye, so you need to make a budget. And the best way to make a budget is to use Excel. You can use Google Sheets, you can use Excel, you can use any other application on your phone, but you gotta make a budget. You gotta know how much money you're spending. And the most important part to making a budget is stick with your budget. Okay, so the first step is easy, I guess. Most people have a job. That's not the hard part. The second step might be one of the hardest parts about saving money, and that is you need to be willing to make sacrifices. You need to be intentional with everything you do. Spending money, saving money. I know this is probably the last thing you want to hear, but I promise you, if you want to save money, if you want to set yourself up for success in the future, Early on, when you're not making a whole lot of money, you will need to make sacrifices. Later on down the road, 5, 10, 15 years from now, whenever you're making a lot more money, you'll be able to reward yourself. You'll be able to go on that vacation. You'll be able to buy those nice clothes, those fancy gadgets. But for now, in the beginning, if you're not making a lot of money, you need to cut back on those extravagant expenses. With that being said, you need to understand the difference between want and need. So whenever I was fresh out of college in the military, I made a list of things that I want. And I required myself to keep those things on that list for 6 months before I bought them. And typically what would happen after 6 months, I realized I don't really want those things. Of course, nobody's perfect. You're not going to wear the same t-shirt every single day. You're not going to eat rice and beans for dinner every night. Just be reasonable. And this is different for everybody. If you're already making $100,000 a year, you might be able to afford that fancy car. You might be able to afford to go on that nice vacation. Okay, now let's talk about managing risk. Couple things here. First, what situation are you personally in right now? That's going to determine how much risk you can take on. For example, if you are single and you only need to worry about yourself, you can probably be a lot more risky. But for me, in my situation in 2017, whenever I was in the military, I had a family to take care of. So I could not be as risky with my decisions. If you don't have a family, maybe you can quit your job now, sleep on your friend's couch, and literally just eat peanut butter sandwiches every single night until you save up enough money and until you realize your dreams. But for me, I had a family to take care of. I had to have a house. I had to buy diapers and groceries for my family. So I couldn't be as risky as other people. Evaluate your situation, and that'll determine how much risk you can afford to take. Another thing with risk comes debt. So debt is a hot topic with a lot of people. Some people are super against any kind of debt. Don't even take out a mortgage to buy a house, which is ridiculous in my opinion. And some other people are pretty reckless when it comes to debt, like credit cards. They'll have like a $5,000 credit card bill. They're paying 25% interest on it. I strongly am against that as well. So there are different types of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Traditionally, taking out a mortgage to get a house is considered good debt. And like I said, the credit card, that is bad debt. So think about inflation. Inflation is really important whenever you're considering debt. So the reason I want to bring up inflation is because if you have a car loan, if you have a mortgage, if you have student loans and the interest rate is like less than 4 or 5%, that's almost keeping up with inflation. So remember that inflation is anywhere from like 2 to 7%, depending on the year and the current economic situation of the country. So if inflation is like 3 or 4% and your loans are 3 or 4%, you're better off saving that money because your cash is just keeping up with inflation anyway. So save your cash. Another thing about debt is that if you use a loan or use debt to acquire an asset, and what I mean by an asset is something that helps make you money, that's also considered good debt. So perfect example for us as truck owners, truck business owners, we will take out a loan, we will acquire debt to purchase a truck, but the truck is an asset. The truck will help make us money. So that's okay debt. Okay, strap in because this is something that I am very passionate about and I might ramble on and talk a lot about this topic. There are different ways to save and invest your money. I do it 4 ways. First, your 401k or your IRA. Second, you can have real estate. Third, you can open a brokerage account. And 4, you can just have cash, whether it be cash in the bank, cash under your mattress, cash in your safe. So first of all, I want to talk about a 401k and an IRA. These are great vehicles to save your money long term. So with a 401k or an IRA, you can either do traditional or Roth. Without getting into it too much, these ways of saving have pretty significant tax benefits, but they are retirement accounts. So you can't use this money until you're in your 50s or 60s without incurring some serious penalties. So investing or saving your money in a 401k or an IRA is great. I highly recommend it, but it's not really going to help you save money in the short term to start a business. Number 2, real estate. Real estate is a great way to save money. It's a great way to invest your money. If you are renting a house, you are pretty much just spending $500 to $2,000 every single month with nothing to show for it. And I get it. Some people, a lot of people in certain situations, they're not able to afford a house. Totally fine. I understand it. I was not able to afford my first house until my late 20s. But if you are in a position to buy a house, I highly recommend doing that because you will establish what's called equity in your house, and you can use that equity to take out a line of credit. 3, a brokerage account. So this is similar to an IRA. It's just a way for you to invest in mutual funds, ETFs, or stocks, similar to an IRA. But with a brokerage account, it doesn't have the tax benefits that you get with an IRA or a 401k. However, the plus side is you can pull this money out anytime. If you are keyed into the stock market, you understand that the market can go up anywhere from 5 to 15 to 20% in any given year. So pretty powerful way to invest your money, sometimes short term. Investing your money now for maybe 5 to 10 years down the road, maybe put a little bit of money into a brokerage account, buy some mutual funds, buy some ETFs, and reap the rewards of a 10% annual gain over 5 years. Just know that you're going to have to pay taxes on those gains. Number 4, the most basic way, the way our great-grandparents saved money was with cash. So there's 3 different ways to save cash. You can save it in a savings account, you can save it in a checking account, or you can actually save paper cash. I would not recommend saving paper cash, but I would recommend having some cash in your checking account or your savings account. With cash, the general rule of thumb is like 3 to 6 months of personal expenses you should have saved up in what's called a rainy day fund. That way, in case of emergency, in case you lose your job, you need to repair your car or your house, you have 3 to 6 months of personal expenses saved up so you're not taking out high interest loans, you're not using credit cards. Okay, this is in line with making sacrifices in terms of difficulty, in terms of, I don't really want to do that. That sounds like a lot of work. There's no replacement for hard work. You need to set goals, specifically goals for saving money and goals for making money. So earlier in the video, I said it takes time to make money. So if you make a little bit of money, it's going to take a long time. If you make a lot of money, it's going to take a little bit of time. Either way, it's going to take time to make money. And with that time, it's going to require a lot of hard work, and it's going to require you to set and achieve goals. In 2016, I had $0, and I was in training for an entire year. So through that 12 months of training, I was able to save up $12,000. And this is whenever I started to realize the power of being intentional with your budget. So fast forward 3 years, fast forward 3 years, we were able to save from $12,000 to $80,000 just in 3 years. So the good news is literally anybody can do this. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter if you're making $15 an hour or making $150,000 a year. As long as you work hard, as long as you're intentional with the way you save your money, and if you follow these steps, I guarantee you'll be able to save money. Okay, now this is a hot topic, but credit cards. I think credit cards are extremely important. You need to have credit in your history to establish a credit score. Doesn't matter what kind of credit it is, but you need some credit. You need a history of credit, and several things go into having a good credit score. Probably number 1 is having timely payments every single month. Never ever miss a payment. Do whatever you can. Set up auto pay, set reminders in your phone, ask your mother to call or text you every single month on the 15th to remind you. Do whatever you can. Never miss a payment on a credit card. Second, it helps to have a long credit history. It's also important to have a high credit limit. You want to start early, and you want to request credit limit increases as often as possible. So whenever I say use credit cards, I don't mean rack up this massive credit card bill. That is not what you want to do. You want to use credit cards to buy for things that you can afford. Pay it off in full every single month, because credit card interest is an example of bad debt. To build your credit. And also, most credit cards come with perks. You'll get 1% cash back. But you need to build your credit if you haven't already. It's not too late. It's never too late. Start today. Now, when it comes to your business, I almost promise you, I almost guarantee you that you will need to personally sign on whatever loan you get because your business is less than 2 years old. No reasonable creditor is going to loan out $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to a brand new business. That just doesn't make sense. So you as an individual, you're going to need to personally guarantee this loan. Now, with that being said, I still recommend establishing business credit, and you can do it very easily with fuel cards. We finally made it. We have made it to the point you have all been waiting for, and that is how to find a truck. And there are like 4 or 5 different places that I would recommend that you could find a truck. So there's Penske, there's Ryder, everyone knows about those 2 companies. They're always selling used and new trucks. There's a website called commercialtrucktrader.com. I'm not affiliated with any of these companies or websites at all, but commercialtrucktrader.com is a great place to look. You can look at trucks all over the country. With private sellers, there's risk and there's reward, just like anything. But with private sellers, you might get a better deal, but you never really know what's wrong with the truck. So why are they selling that truck? What's wrong with the truck? And then the other way that you can buy a truck is obviously from a local dealership. Okay, so where did I get my trucks? I've purchased 2 trucks in the past 6 months, and the first truck I got from Penske. So it was $30,000 for an 18-foot box truck. And Penske and Ryder, you're gonna pay a premium for Penske and Ryder, but you're also going to have that reassurance that it's probably going to be able to pass a DOT inspection. And the cool thing about buying my truck from Penske was that my truck actually needed 2 new tires to pass a DOT inspection, and I told Penske and they reimbursed me for buying the 2 new tires. And then the second truck I bought was from a private dealer. I got super lucky. I got a 26-foot 2010 International 4300. I got the truck for $20,000. And I got a great deal on that truck. So that was the benefit of buying from a private seller. I got lucky that there was nothing majorly wrong with the truck because I knew the guy personally. So if you're gonna buy from a private seller, make sure you bring a mechanic, make sure you get it inspected before you buy the truck.